The small shuttle shook violently as it entered the orbit of a strange, glowing planet. Jara looked out of the tiny window, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. She had only $2 left, her savings, her hope, and yet she had to survive. The city below glittered with lights that pulsed like the heartbeat of some giant machine. Strange towers reached into the clouds, and floating vehicles zipped between them like silver fish. Jara had never seen anything like it, and her heart raced with both fear and excitement. She stepped out of the shuttle, her boots hitting the cold, metallic platform. The wind was sharp, and the smell of oil and electricity filled her nose. Every person she passed seemed busy, moving fast, their faces serious. Some looked at her strangely, whispering to each other in languages she could not understand. Jara hugged her small bag close to her chest, counting her last $2 again. She had to find food, shelter, and maybe, just maybe, a friend. As she walked into the crowded streets, a small market caught her attention. Bright neon signs flashed above, showing things she had never seen before, glowing fruits, tiny robots cleaning streets, and machines that made strange noises. She tried to buy a small snack, but the coins in her hand were not enough. The vendor shook his head and moved on to the next customer. Jara felt her stomach twist with hunger, but she held her head high. She knew giving up was not an option, not yet. Hours passed, and Jara wandered into the darker part of the city. The neon lights faded, replaced by long shadows and narrow alleys. She could hear strange sounds echoing off the walls, whispers and clicks that made her skin crawl. Every step she took, she felt eyes on her, watching, judging, waiting. Suddenly, a shadow moved quickly across the alley, and Jara froze. Her heart pounded as she reached for the small knife she kept in her bag. But there was nothing, only the sound of her own breathing and the distant hum of machines. Jara continued walking, trying not to look afraid. She found a small, abandoned bench and sat down, counting her $2 again. Maybe I can survive one more night, she whispered to herself. As she looked up at the stars above, she noticed something strange. A figure was standing across the street, watching her, silent and still. It was a human, or at least it looked human, tall, dressed in simple clothes, and yet there was a glow in their eyes. Jara felt a shiver run down her spine, a mixture of fear and curiosity. The figure did not move, did not speak, but somehow, Jara felt that they were important. Maybe this person could help her, maybe they were dangerous, she did not know. But something inside her told her to stay, to watch, to wait. The city around her was alive, dangerous, and beautiful. And Jara realized that this was just the beginning of her journey. She had only $2, a strange city, and a mysterious human watching her. And yet, somehow, she felt that her life was about to change forever. The next morning, Jara woke up on a cold bench, the city still humming around her. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her of the small snack she could not buy yesterday. She tucked her bag close and stepped back into the streets, hoping today would be different. The neon lights were brighter now, casting long reflections on the wet streets. People moved quickly, some bumping into her, some ignoring her completely. Jara walked carefully, trying not to draw attention, but every glance made her nervous. She passed a small alley where a faint aroma of warm food lingered. Her mouth watered, but she had only $2, barely enough for one small item. Just as she turned to leave, a soft voice called, "Hey, you look hungry." Jara froze and looked up, and there he was, the same figure from last night. The human was smiling gently, holding a small tray with something steaming on it. "I thought you might need this," he said, his voice calm, patient. Jara hesitated, unsure if this was a trap, but her stomach pushed her forward. She took the tray, her hands trembling slightly. Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The human shrugged, "Everyone deserves a chance, don't they?" Jara felt warmth rise in her chest. It was strange to hear kindness in this strange city. They sat on the bench together, eating quietly, watching the crowd pass by. The human did not ask for anything in return, only a small nod and a smile. And for the first time in a long while, Jara felt a spark of hope. Over the next few hours, they walked together through the busy streets. The human introduced himself as Kale, though Jara still did not fully trust him. He showed her places she could earn small amounts, doing simple tasks for food. Jara learned to trade small gadgets, clean machines, and deliver messages. Her $2 slowly turned into more, little by little. Kale watched patiently, offering guidance, but never pushing her. And slowly, Jara began to see that perhaps she was not alone in this city. Yet, the city was not completely safe. Strange gangs moved through the alleys, and machines occasionally malfunctioned. Jara had to stay alert, her eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. Kale seemed aware of every danger and quietly protected her. Sometimes, he would grab her hand suddenly, pulling her out of harm's way. Each time, Jara felt a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. Who was this human really? As evening approached, the neon lights reflected in the puddles. Jara and Kale found a quiet spot on a high platform overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, towering buildings, flying vehicles, and glowing bridges. Jara whispered, "This city, it feels alive, but also lonely." Kale nodded, "It is alive, but it rewards those who try, and punishes those who give up." For the first time, Jara realized that she was learning, adapting, surviving. And maybe, just maybe, Kale's kindness was a sign that she could trust someone again. But just as she started to feel comfortable, a shadow moved across the platform. Kale stiffened, his eyes narrowing at the dark figure approaching. Jara's heart raced, remembering how dangerous this city could be. Was this another test, another threat? Or someone who wanted to help? She clutched her small bag, her mind racing. The encounter with Kale had given her hope, but the city reminded her that nothing came easy. And as the shadow drew closer, Jara realized that her journey was only beginning. The next few days were hard for Jara. She worked tirelessly, delivering small packages, cleaning machines, and running errands. Every dollar she earned felt like a victory, but the city never gave her peace. Crowds pushed her, machines failed suddenly, and dangerous gangs watched every corner. Jara learned to keep her eyes open, to be quick, and to rely on Kale whenever she could. Kale stayed near her, always watching, always guiding. But even with his help, danger was never far. One evening, while carrying a crate of glowing gadgets through a narrow alley, two gang members blocked her path, faces hidden behind metal masks. "Give us everything you have, little one of them hissed. Jara's heart pounded, and she fumbled with her bag, her $2 now grown into a few small coins and gadgets. She stepped back, her mind racing for a way out. But before she could react, one of the gang members grabbed her arm roughly. Pain shot through her, and she fell to the ground. Suddenly, Kale appeared, moving faster than Jara had ever seen. He pushed the attackers away with strength she did not expect. But as the gang fled, Kale's face changed, cold, almost unreadable. Jara looked up at him, her chest heaving. "Kale, you saved me," she whispered. Kale nodded, but did not smile. "Stay alert. Trust can be dangerous here," he said. Jara felt confusion. Why did he not seem happy? Why did the city make even kindness feel heavy? The next morning, Jara tried to continue her small tasks. But something felt different. A delivery she thought was simple had disappeared, stolen from her bag. And the same shadowy figure she had seen earlier lingered near the docks. Her trust wavered, she had worked so hard, and now it felt meaningless. Jara felt tears prick her eyes, anger mixing with fear. "Why does everyone want to take from me?" she muttered, clutching her bag. She realized that surviving was not just about money, it was about understanding who could be trusted. Kale approached her slowly, eyes serious. "Someone close may not be what they seem," he said quietly. Jara frowned, suspicion and worry clouding her thoughts. Was he talking about the gang, or her? Her stomach twisted, not from hunger this time, but from doubt and fear. She wanted to ask him, to beg him for the truth, but words stuck in her throat. The city's noise seemed louder, mocking her uncertainty. Days passed, and betrayal struck again. The person Jara thought she could rely on, the one who promised kindness, had turned away at the most crucial moment. A job she completed with care was given to someone else, leaving her without coins or credit. Her heart sank, and she sat alone on the wet streets, watching neon lights ripple in the puddles. Kale appeared again, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You must be careful," he said softly, "not everyone here wants to see you succeed." Jara nodded silently, realizing that survival was harder than she imagined. Even with Kale's guidance, the city demanded vigilance, courage, and strength. That night, she lay on the abandoned bench again, staring at the stars above. The city hummed around her, alive and dangerous. Her $2 felt small, almost meaningless, but she could not give up. She had seen kindness, even if it was fleeting. And she had learned that betrayal could come in many forms. As she closed her eyes, Jara made a silent promise: she would survive. No matter how many times the world turned against her, she would find a way. And in the darkness, she wondered if Kale's trust was the only light she could hold on to. The city was quieter that night, though the glow of neon lights never faded completely. Jara walked slowly along the streets, her bag clutched tightly to her chest. The memories of betrayal and danger weighed on her, but she refused to give up. She had learned to survive, to trust only when she could see honesty. And she had learned that Kale's presence, strange and steady, was something she could not ignore. As she reached a small plaza, a sudden commotion caught her attention. A delivery drone had malfunctioned, scattering glowing packages everywhere. People screamed and ran, but Jara hesitated, looking around, unsure what to do. Then she saw Kale moving quickly, picking up packages and helping people. He worked calmly, almost effortlessly, and his eyes found hers in the crowd. A small smile touched his lips, the first she had seen in days. Something inside Jara stirred. Was this the human she could trust after all? Kale approached her, holding a small, glowing package in his hands. "I saved this for you," he said softly, "I thought it might help you today." Jara accepted it, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Not because of the package, but because someone had thought of her, cared for her. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Kale shook his head. "You don't need to. Just survive. That is enough for now." For the first time, Jara felt hope, not just for survival, but for something more: friendship, trust, maybe even love. Over the next few days, Jara and Kale worked together, navigating the city. Kale taught her small tricks to earn money, avoid danger, and read people. They laughed quietly at small jokes, shared stories about their pasts, and watched the city from high platforms. Jara felt a strange connection, one she had never experienced before. It was not just survival, it was companionship, a bond that grew stronger with every shared challenge. But the city still had dangers waiting, and Kale remained cautious. "Not everyone here wants to help," he reminded her, eyes scanning the streets. One night, as they returned from a long day of work, a group of shadowy figures appeared. Jara's heart raced, but Kale moved confidently, standing in front of her. He spoke to them quietly, firmly, and the figures backed away, disappearing into the darkness. Jara's eyes widened. He had risked himself for her, without hesitation. Her heart pounded, and she realized that this human saw her not just as a weak stranger, but as someone worth protecting. That night, Jara lay on the bench again, looking at the stars above. She thought about the journey, the loneliness, the danger, the betrayal, and now the hope. Her $2 seemed small, almost silly, compared to what she had learned. She had learned resilience, trust, and courage. And most importantly, she had learned that Kale's kindness was real, steady, and unwavering. As sleep began to take her, she felt Kale sit nearby, silently watching over her. She did not need words, his presence spoke louder than any promise. The city could be harsh, cold, and unforgiving, but Jara understood that she was no longer alone. For the first time in weeks, she smiled, feeling something she had almost forgotten, hope. And in that quiet moment, she knew that tomorrow could be the day her life truly changed. The day she might finally be seen, understood, and maybe even loved. The city sparkled under a sky full of stars, and Jara walked beside Kale, her heart racing. Everything she had endured, the loneliness, the danger, the small victories, led her to this moment. She looked at Kale, remembering the first day he had given her food. The small acts of kindness that had grown into trust, and now something stronger. Something she could not name yet, but she felt it deep in her chest. Kale stopped on a high platform overlooking the glowing city. He turned to her, his eyes soft, serious, yet full of warmth. "Jara," he said quietly, "I have seen your courage, your heart, and your strength. You are more than the world believes, more than the city shows. I want you to know. I see you, truly." Jara felt tears sting her eyes, her voice trembling. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Kale stepped closer, holding out his hand. "You don't need to say anything. I just want to be with you, if you will let me." Her mind raced, remembering all the struggles, the betrayals, and the fears. But now she realized something powerful: love was not about wealth, status, or survival alone. It was about seeing someone's heart, valuing them for who they were. And Kale had done exactly that, every step of the way. Jara took a deep breath, feeling her small bag with her $2. It seemed insignificant now, compared to the courage, trust, and love she had earned. With a smile, she took Kale's hand, feeling a warmth that she had never known before. I choose you," she said softly, her voice full of hope. Kale smiled, squeezing her hand gently, "And I choose you too." The city around them hummed, alive and vast, but it no longer seemed frightening. The towers, the neon lights, the floating vehicles, all of it felt like a part of their new beginning. Jara realized that she had survived, yes, but more than that, she had been seen. She had been understood, valued, and loved. And in the midst of the city's chaos, she had found something extraordinary. Days passed, and Jara and Kale worked and lived together. They faced challenges, danger, and strange adventures, but always side by side. Her $2 was just a memory now, a symbol of how far she had come. The city that once seemed cold and unforgiving had become a place of hope and connection. Jara often thought about that first lonely night on the bench. She remembered the fear, the hunger, the hopelessness. And she smiled, knowing that everything had led to this moment. A life with someone who believed in her, someone who saw her heart. Someone who chose her, not for what she had, but for who she was. And as they stood together, looking at the glowing city, hand in hand, Jara felt a quiet truth settle in her heart: love could bloom anywhere. Even in a city of strangers, even with only $2. Even in a world that seemed harsh and cold. There was always hope, always courage, and always someone who could choose to love. And in that moment, under the lights of the vast, futuristic city, Jara knew that her life had truly changed forever. Not because of money, power, or luck, but because someone had chosen her. And she had chosen back, with all her heart.